Hey, everybody, it's time for episode 262 of the 3 Point Podcast presented by Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center and Skymint Cannabis. Our fantastic partners, like I said, Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center, a lot of really cool things going on. Swimming lessons are underway, flexibility training now available for purchase at the front desk. The center is hosting a spring open house on Saturday, April 29th, 10 to 1 with free admission. And as we always talk about, the sauna, the lap pool, the steam room, sky track, just so much going on. And guys, just got to jump right in and say, hey, we must be doing something right, as they immediately signed up for another year of sponsorship as soon as I hit the email, man. It's awesome.
I like to imagine you as like the Jared of Subway of Memorial Healthcare.
Wait a minute. No.
Hopefully not the whole way.
Come on.
The good part. Hey, you don't have to share the same name as that weirdo. So it could be worse, man. You have one comparison to him. No, it's awesome. I mean, it's funny so I have one brother that lives, up Saginaw area. Then I have another one that lives in Arizona. I mean, they love that place. Every time they're in town, they go every single day on a guest pass to that place. So it's not only nice for, our Shiawassee County area, but it's state of the art across the country.
Yeah. And like we've said before, it has everything. Like, you don't have to be some crazy super Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilder. Like, you can just go and walk around the track, sit in the steam room, go swim a few laps. Like, and they have the classes too that you've mentioned, spin class and Zumba and all those other ones, the boot camps that you were listing off. So it really is. It's one thing to offer all that stuff. And then it's another thing, like Jared said, for it to be a super nice facility. You know, when it's both of those and the food we know is good, the cafeteria or whatever. So it's really state of the art, top notch, all of that.
Absolutely. And all the people are really fantastic too. If you want more info, go online at memorialhealthcare.org. Also, another one of our great title sponsors, Skymint Cannabis. Farm to stash, grown right here in the Great Lakes state, over 20 locations in Michigan. Check out the Skymint Reserve, an elevated cannabis line featuring exceptional profiles. And check out, most recently, they passed on to me Michigan's best bundles for deals on flower, vapes, pre-rolls, edibles, and extracts. Now, this is the one that blew my mind away. Ounces as low as $49. I mean, think about it. It's becoming bonfire season, boating, fishing. What a better way to just kind of chill out and enjoy a $49 ounce, man. That's going to last you a while.
Yeah. I mean, if you bought that and stored it around the pontoon for the summer, man, I mean, that's enough to keep you busy until probably July or so.
Maybe.
Well, you mentioned, Jared, I think one time we were talking about it. It's kind of becoming a thing, like open bar is a thing at weddings, class reunions, whatever kind of events. It's almost becoming a thing to have like open bar, but with cannabis, with weed. So, cheap prices like that, you can get a variety of things for people to choose from. There you go.
Hey, look, in the state of Michigan, it's legal. If you're over 21, go online at skymint.com, sign up for the rewards program. But, it's just like alcohol. I mean, you don't want to drive after you have been involved with it. But if you want to just sit around and chill out, man, it's a great activity. Just take it from me, Ted the Sports Guy. Also want to thank our local partners. They include AZEE Printing Solutions, now open at 116 West Main in Owasso. Capital Sports Fieldhouse, you'll be hearing a message from them as they are our sponsors of the Prep Spotlight. CR Auctions, Michigan's leader in auctions online. Nelson House Funeral Home, serving the area since 1880. The patio is now open at Rivals Taphouse and Grille. And check out Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, saving you big money on home loans. Well, I don't know how much we got to catch up on, but it's been another week has passed us by. I guess the only thing I really want to pass on is the pontoon is in the water and it started right up, Jared. Wow. So it might be a good season.
That's always key. Is it? I know you winterize your boat. I know how all that stuff goes up in Michigan. You winterize it. So then you, I guess, unwinterize it. Is it always like that first turn of the key? Is it always like you almost like say a prayer before you do it? You're like, all right, here we go. Let's see what happens.
100%, 100%, man. I mean, I keep the battery charged up all winter. So that's issue number one. You want to make sure that it turns over. And then every spring I put fresh gas in it to make sure it'll start up, and 100%. The fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
You're cranking, ying, 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 ying. But when it kicks in, man, it's like sweet heaven.
I tell you what, I mean, it's a nice boat. I'm shocked it started right up. I don't care how much winterization prep you did. It's unbelievable. So that is a big time win. I'll give it to you.
And from what I hear anyway, I know you guys had a great stretch of weather up there, but it was like snowing yesterday or something, wasn't it? Or like a couple days ago, some snow started spitting in Michigan. So
oh yeah.
Is it still is Lake Manitou does it still have some ice on it?
Right. Well, quick sidebar. A number of years ago, we were up north for a relative's 50th birthday at that time. It was May 1st. Before we went up north, I popped on the canvas on top of the pergola out in the yard. May 1st, we had like 6 inches of wet, heavy snow, and that thing got destroyed. So I've learned my lesson.
The 1 week we had, whatever it was 2 weeks ago, whereas it was like a midsummer week out of nowhere in the middle of April, and then it just went back to winter right after it. I mean, that'll be remembered in the history books. I don't know what was in the air that week, but it was awesome. We didn't really appreciate it. I'll be honest, I thought it was here to stay when it came. I was dead wrong, but it was an awesome week while we had it.
Absolutely.
My sisters and like some of my family said that their kids were excited because they got to wear like shorts to school. But it's like, don't put the winter coats away just yet. Don't put that stuff away just yet. We know how Michigan is, but it's been like it's been pretty rainy. We've had a little more rain. It's not like some record rain or anything like that down here. But it's definitely that time of year where you guys know I still love Michigan and everything like that. But when I look at the temps and it's mid 70s, low 70s, and I'm looking at people up in Michigan posting pictures on Facebook or, whatever's going on, and it's snow or it's slushy or it's all these cancellations I'm sure we're going to hear about in the prep spotlight. High school sports, it's just there are times of the year that I'm like, it's nice to be down here in the Carolinas. It's, avoid that weather a little bit.
Well, the good news is it's sunny right now. It's a little chilly outside, but the weather is going to break here within the next couple of weeks, and it's going to be, as you know, just sweet Michigan weather. Yeah. Any other catch-up, fellas, we want to bring on the table?
Yeah, you can't beat that Michigan spring. I was going to bring up, I don't know if we're about to move to the prep spotlight. I mentioned a lot of sports being canceled or, whatever's going on with spring sports up in Michigan because of the weather, or really any of the northern states. I think it was Luke Giardi. He's a friend of the pod. He always joins the Prep Pig Skip preview. He's up in the UP, so he always gives us a good look at UP football. He posed a question on Twitter. I don't know if he was like serious or if it was kind of like for fun. He said something like Michigan shouldn't have spring sports, outdoor spring sports, because of all the weather delays. You can't get into a rhythm. It's almost like pointless sometimes. Like you have 2-3 weeks off with no games. I don't know if he was just saying that or if he was serious, but you guys, do you think that should even be an option? Figure out like, should basketball? Well, you couldn't have anything in the winter. So yeah, you got to have basketball in the winter, but like, should they try and figure something out with the sports? You're not going to straight up cancel baseball, track and stuff like that, but
I think they could definitely adjust the scheduling. I mean, well, here's the thing about track. At least when I was in high school, now I never qualified for these events because I wasn't very fast. But usually at the start of the year, you'd have the invitational at Saginaw Valley, you'd have the invitational at Grand Valley, you would have the invitational at Michigan State, Jennison Center, or wherever they have their indoor track at. So you usually would have a few meets that were indoors. And hopefully by about now, you can be fully outdoors. Doesn't always happen. As we saw, they were teased a little bit. I mean, golf, dear God, we would have so many canceled meets, man. It was the first 3 or 4, maybe even two, honestly, first half of the season, you're playing Mark Pitt clean in place where if you hit the ball, it's so wet out that your ball was going to plug into the ground. So you literally had to put your scorecard down, grab the ball, rip it out of the mud, and drop it. So no, these are problems, but I don't know how you fix it. Maybe if I was baseball, you could backload the schedule a little bit more. Make it so those first whatever 2-3 weeks, you have maybe a 1 game a week or something like that, and then you just are playing baseball nonstop after that. But it just is what it is. I don't think there's any way to solve it. It just definitely sucks, especially the UP, like Giardi. I don't even have they even seen a blade of grass yet?
I don't know. Well, you brought up some good points there, Jared. I mean, really, I don't think they eliminate it. I think it is kind of facetious that he would bring that up to totally eliminate it. But hey, it's Michigan, and we've been dealing with it for a long time. Make a few tweaks to it. You know, I know really to me, it only affects mainly softball, baseball, and golf, like Jared mentioned. But you know, if the weather breaks, maybe extend the season a bit. You know, there's been talk about taking it a little further into June, even after graduation. That would be a decent compromise maybe for the good teams when they get to the playoffs. But hey, we just got to deal with it. It's Michigan, and that's what it is. And maybe backload it would be a good idea.
Yeah, especially, I mean, backloading it, that I never really thought about that. You could do that. I think about baseball, you know, like your starting pitching.
Right.
You would have to really adjust that. If you had 3 doubleheaders in 1 week, you know,
yeah,
you might have to have some extra pitchers. Even track, I'd be curious to hear from track coaches if they'd want to have like 3 meets in 1 week. You know, that could be kind of taxing on the kids. But yeah, it was just an interesting topic. I know we're high school sports fans, and you know, with the prep spotlight and everything, but I don't think, like you said, Ted, you've been dealing with it. Michigan's been dealing with it since sports were created. You know, you can't do anything about the weather. You just got to adjust.
Amen. Well, we're talking about high school sports here in Michigan in the spring. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up next on the Prep Spotlight presented by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. All right, fellas, let's jump right into it. We'll start in track and field. Chesaning Classic has just been completed. The host Indians won the small school division as Eric Branchick won the high jump at 6'2". Caleb Walker won the 110-meter hurdles. Corunna finished second in that event to Saginaw Heritage in the large school division. The Cavs, though, had 5 first-place finishes as Tarek Bauer won the 100 at 11.4 seconds. A pretty good run there, just edged out his brother Wyatt in that one. Kenny Evans won the 3,200-meter run, and the Cavalier relay teams, they're strong, boys. They won the 4x100, 4x200, and 4x400. Again, looking pretty good there for the Gold and Black.
Did you guys ever run any relays when you were in school? Were you, Matt? I don't know if you ran track unless you ran it in like middle school, but I ran in one relay event in middle school, third leg, which is the slowest. And wouldn't you know it, we had such a huge lead, and I was just so amped up for this like first relay I was in. I stepped out of my lines, so we ended up getting DQ'd. But no, it's fun. I mean, track, for what it's worth, when I look back at my life, I wish I would have kept playing baseball. But I tell you what, track will make you humble. And Corunna, I mean, Wyatt Bauer, Tarek Bauer. It's fun to see that that's a nice little price of admission just to see them race against each other every single meet. So that's cool.
No, I ran track a little bit in middle school, but yeah, I never did in high school because I played baseball. But I know we've talked about it before. If at the time when I was at Corunna, if you could do 2 sports, I definitely would have done track and baseball. I think that would have been cool. Even if I wasn't, you know, in the first heat or, you know, whatever it is, I wouldn't have been on the fastest teams probably. But it's just a good way to stay in shape, if anything. But it is always one of those things, like if I was super fast, you know, Usain Bolt or, you know, something crazy like that, there would be nothing cooler. I would be like, what sport, you know, to think about the adrenaline rush of at a state meet or something. If you're like the 4th leg of the 4x100 and you are that fast, you're like the fastest dude in the state, and you're just flying down the track, burning by dudes like that. Would be really cool about track if you were that good.
It's great as a spectator too. When you're watching those relays and seeing them, it's really an adrenaline rush, man. It's a lot of fun, without a doubt. You know, back when I played baseball, but of course, Nick Anise, the legendary head coach Nick Anise of the football program at Corunna, he forced us. I think he was in cahoots with Dick Moffitt because they made the baseball players run track. You know, and if you want to have a good football program, you pretty much want to have a good track program. It kind of goes hand in hand with track and wrestling. So I was forced into it. I did run some relays, but mine, I was slower than Jared, so I was specializing in the mile and 2 mile. So those relays, you never had to worry about getting DQ'd. I'll tell you that much. Also in track, Langsburg Junior Jack Borgman had a big day in a recent CMAC quad meet, winning the pole vault and the 100 and running anchor in their 4x100 relay, making up most of a big deficit, but the team finished second. In baseball, some games have been played. Watch out for Langsburg. They're ranked in the top 20 in the state. They're now 11-1 with a sweep of Perry and a split with Hazlitt. Ty Randall, who was a solid player on that basketball team, finished the Rambler games going 6 for 8 with 4 RBIs. They no-hit Bath twice, 12-0 and 20-0. And they have a big CMAC twin bill with Fowler coming up tomorrow. We're recording this on Wednesday, so Thursday over at the Wolfpack Diamond should be a good baseball game. And speaking of good baseball, hey, again, our Corona Cavaliers, they took 2 out of 3 from Goodrich, who's always right there at the top in the league, and swept a doubleheader at Clio. Corona now has improved to 9-3 and playing really good ball for Coach Chuck Osika. So watch out for the Cavs.
Yeah, I always like seeing Corona baseball. I know we've talked about it again on the pod before, but Corona baseball doing well because when I was a kid growing up, Tony Bohack was running the program, and they were really good. Chuck Osika played for Tony, and kind of when I went through, we had a little bit of a downturn. We had talent, but we weren't that great or anything. I think the program kind of fell off a little bit. But then shortly after I left, Brian Osborne came in, who also played for Tony, who I know is, I think he's still the AD over at Fowlerville, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
He came in and turned the program around, and then Chuck has kept it going. So honestly, except for that window when I was kind of going through that we kind of took a dip a little bit, Corona baseball's been good. Yeah. I mean, Brandon Eckerly, Hall of Famer, I mean, he got drafted by the Tigers. I mean, legitimate program.
Yeah, absolutely. One final thing, boys, moving to a different topic. This kind of surprised me, but I understand it. We got to send a shout out to former guest here on the pod, Ovid Elsie basketball coach Josh Latz. He recently announced his retirement as the OE mentor after 12 years, finishing 158 and 88. And, he's retired. And I'm just going to preface it by saying, for now. I mean, he's young. He's got young kids. I think he wants to dedicate some time to the family, but I don't think we've seen the last of Josh Latz as a varsity basketball coach.
Yeah, it was a bit surprising. I mean, I think none of us saw that news coming. We all kind of we joked with him, how would they win 15 games every year if he coaches, for the next 30 years, he could get up there to whatever 500 or more. Yeah, I mean, like you said, for now, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's the thing about high school basketball and high school coaches really in general is, man, you work a lot, a ton, and you don't get compensated for it. I mean, it's the way it is. I mean, you love it anyway. You don't do it for the money, obviously, but I mean, it's just a lot of time to dedicate, especially when you have kids, to running a full-time varsity program the right way, like we know he does, and then also teaching, and then also coaching your kids' teams and all that sort of thing. So, no, I mean, it was a great career.
Yeah, I would be curious, like you said, Ted, if it's kind of a for now, because as he mentioned, I think even when we were talking to him, with his kids and stuff, and in his statement, he said that he didn't feel like he was giving Ovid Elsie the attention, basically that he thinks it deserves, because he obviously came up. He's an Ovid Elsie kid through and through, so he doesn't want to shortchange the program by any means. So I'm sure those things kind of came into play. Everything Jared just said, the time that he has to give to his kids and his family and everything like that, and then what he thinks the basketball program deserves. So I'd be curious when the kids get a little older, and start kind of doing their own thing, if that itch comes back to get back on the sidelines.
Well, especially if they're basketball players and they get up to that 10th grade level, maybe he'd want to come back and coach his kids, So stay tuned. But anyway, congratulations to Josh, a good young man and a great coach here in mid-Michigan. Well, we're going to mix it up, get into a whole different variety of sports going on right now, but we'll be back right after this.
All right, fellas. I mean, it's been what a great last few weeks it's been of sports. The NBA playoffs, we had the Masters get wrapped up. I'm loving it. Baseball's Tigers are still staying relevant, which is all we can ask for from them. They're staying relevant. So that's another thing to watch. But my favorite takeaway from this NBA playoffs has been, Matt, I know you love it, the Lakers. What LeBron, I'll be honest, when I was watching game 2, I kind of had an epiphany. I'm like, man, LeBron really just isn't what he used to be. And I would say that's still true.
Yeah.
But I really was depressed after watching that game, watching Dylan Brooks, clown him after the game. And what do you know? In LeBron James fashion, he comes back and answers the bell. I mean, what a great ending to. I know they're going to be playing game 5 tonight, but game 4, I mean, turn back the clock a little bit, 2020 game. And when the pressure was at its highest, he made a play. So what a fun series that's been. I mean, Ja Morant has looked well since he's came back from his hand injury. I mean, Dylan Brooks, people have been shitting on him. I love him. I absolutely love Dylan Brooks. I don't know what it is about his kind of villain attitude, but something about the way he worded what he said about LeBron, how he essentially said something along the lines of, he's old. I don't care what he thinks of me or something like that. Basically, he's like, I know how good he was with the Heat and with the Cavs. It's a shame I didn't get to see it. I just think he's hilarious. I've hated a little bit how he's now kind of acted like the media has turned him into some villain, and he's declined the media availability the last 2 games. But regardless, I still love him. It's been a very fun subplot of that series. But I mean, what a great playoffs. I mean, there's so many different storylines. We just watched Jimmy Butler go off for 56. Wow. I'll leave that there. But what do you guys make of this Lakers-Grizzlies series real quick?
I think for sure, first of all, like I think we said last week, the NBA playoffs always deliver. There's always going to be a couple kind of dud series, but there's always going to be a handful. Storylines are going to come out. It happens every year. Jimmy Butler, whether it's the injuries this year, the crazy injuries, or the Lakers. And yeah, to answer your question, I love it. And I think it goes to show if you just got to have the right superstars. I keep saying it over and over and over. I've said it 500 times about the Pistons. You've got to have superstars. The Grizzlies have basically been like the top 2 or 3 in the West all season. They've been up there all season. People were saying, nope, this is their year. They've got Ja Morant's a superstar. They've got guys like Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bane, role players.
Xavier Tillman.
Yeah, Tillman. They've got, some injuries like Adams and Clark. That doesn't help them at all. But people were saying this is their year. They don't have a LeBron James. They don't have Anthony Davis, even though Anthony Davis is very up and down. They don't have guys like that, and you have to. If you want to actually win in the playoffs. And the Dylan Brooks thing, yes, I like it because I just like drama. I like, whatever. I think it's fun. I would be curious to hear what Ted thinks because I'm sure I know. If you're going to talk that kind of trash, you can't then duck the media. If you're going to talk, you can't be a front runner. If you're going to talk trash when you're up in the series, when you just kind of put it to LeBron a little bit, you can't then duck the media when you poke the bear and LeBron takes it to you for 2 straight games. And now the Lakers are probably going to put your team out of the playoffs. That's just not cool. And like you said, Jared, him saying that like the media has painted him like this. Oh man,
Really?
you've done this all yourself. With everything you say, with the way you play. I love the way he plays. That's fine. I love the way he plays with energy and, he doesn't back down from anyone. That's fine. But when you're going 3 of 19 from the field and getting ejected for ball tagging LeBron and LeBron's like taking you to the basket, you call him old and then you can't D him up, like all of that stuff. Just go answer questions. That's all you got to do. So that's the only thing that bothers me about the Brooks thing. Otherwise, I think you said it last week or maybe the week before, Jared, Rob Pelinka put this Lakers team together and before the trade deadline, they weren't even going to make the playoffs. They were out of the playoffs. They made the right trades. They got the right guys around LeBron and AD. And honestly, they could make a run to the finals if they stay healthy.
If they stay healthy, yeah. And if age doesn't catch up to them. But my comment on the Brooks and James thing, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of all that trash talking, but I get it. It does add some excitement level and it does add to the games. But it had to just make Jared just about wet his pants seeing LeBron just put it in his face. I mean, you could talk all the trash you want. You better back it up. And why would you poke the bear in that situation? It's just, I don't know. It just bad
I don't know.
karma.
I loved it regardless, man. If there's something I love about his game, if the Grizzlies don't want him back as a LeBron James wherever he goes, I'm a fan of that team. I'd love it if he joined up with the Lakers next year.
Right.
in the same sort of vein, I mean, Sacramento versus Golden State, same thing with Draymond. I love Draymond. Everyone's saying, the Warriors won't have him back next year. They're sick of this attitude. I don't understand these ejections. First off, I mean, that's news of the past, so I won't harp on that too much. But I'll just say this real quick, since we haven't had a chance to talk since then. When Draymond got ejected and he was hyping up the crowd and riling them up, I couldn't take my eyes off the screen for about 2 minutes there. That was the moment of the playoffs. How awesome was that?
With
and
the
fact
NBA
that
commissioner in the stands.
Yeah, it was. People were saying he crossed the line. It's going to turn into Malice in the Palace. Watching that, it never seemed like it was like anger from him or from the fan. Like, it just was like he's loving it. I mean, I'm just such a big Draymond guy, and that just really solidified it even more. I mean, that series is tied 2-2. Going back to Sacramento for Game 5, it's a must-win for pretty much both teams. What we've been spoiled. We really have. I mean, the fact that that's the second series we talk about is that Golden State and Sacramento. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say that series, I've tweeted it out probably multiple times. That series, if you're just a general basketball fan, you're not a Warriors fan, you're not a Kings fan, and you just enjoy playoff basketball, that is sit back and watch every second of that series, because everyone knows everything about the Warriors. Draymond, the Splash Brothers, Steve Kerr, all that. But the Kings are legit. And De'Aaron Fox is good, and they've got a bunch of other, up-and-coming players. I can't believe I'm saying it, but the Kings have made me become like a Draymond and Warriors fan, because I want to see Warriors versus Lakers. I want to see Steph and Clay versus AD and LeBron. And Draymond has done this to himself. I don't think he should have been suspended and all that, but he's done it to himself with his past BS, I guess. But
yeah,
great
it would be an interesting and a good series if we did see the Lakers and the Warriors. But it's like a couple of years ago when I jumped on the Phoenix bandwagon, and Booker, just a great player. I don't really start watching the NBA in tune until this time of year. And I know I'm out of it compared to you two guys, but De'Aaron Fox, I mean, it's unfortunate that he broke his finger, but this kid he's amazing. And I love the Sacramento story, man. I just love the way they play. They go balls out, and these last 2 or 3 games are going to be incredible. I think I'm looking forward to it. I hope Fox can have some kind of rebound back and can still play effectively, because man, that kid, he's something else. And to me, he came out of nowhere. He's been in the league though like 3-4 years out of Kentucky, but he's good.
Yeah, he was a stud at Kentucky, and then the Kings just stunk when they drafted him.
Right.
So it's taken a few years for them to turn it around, but Mike Brown can coach. We know that, and they've got the right role player, Sabonis, around him. That's the thing. Sabonis is starting to bother me, the way that he plays. Like, I'm fine with, playing, physical and all that kind of stuff, but if people are going to call Draymond dirty, Sabonis plays just as dirty as Draymond does. But yeah, Fox is a stud. It sucks, the injuries. I've mentioned it earlier. It's just been so many injuries. I mean, Embiid is kind of questionable going forward. Giannis has been banged up. The Clippers basically don't have anyone left except Russell Westbrook. You hold your breath every time Anthony Davis falls to the floor with the Lakers. You hold your breath. Ja Morant, obviously. I saw someone, Paul George was one, but I saw a couple other current players and coaches talking about load management. I know we've talked about load management before, and they said, I thought it was interesting. They said that they think load management is actually hurting or like contributing to players getting hurt in the playoffs, because their bodies aren't necessarily like ready for how physical playoff basketball is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I think load management is good in places. Like maybe sometimes a guy just needs a night off. But when you're like giving guys nights off all the time and they're only playing 60 games during the regular season, maybe their body's not ready for playoff basketball. And, freak injuries are going to happen when Ja Morant goes up, falls to the floor and, hurts his hand. But some of these other injuries, it's just like, I mean, Kawhi's been load managing for 4 years and just can't seem to stay healthy. It's a shame, because when he plays, he's legit. But it just, there's so many injuries. While I want the Lakers to win, so Fox getting hurt, I'm kind of like, I want to see a good series, or I want the Warriors to play the Lakers is what I mean.
Yeah.
I want to see a good series.
There's been a lot. I do think load management plays a part in it. I mean, you see the different. I mean, Ted, you haven't watched a single second of regular season basketball, but the level of play, even you can realize like the level of play, it's like twice as hard the way these guys are playing as soon as the playoffs start compared to the regular season. And if you don't have that kind of ramp up time like the Lakers did, I think you're at a disadvantage and you end up struggling because of it, and injuries occur. There's been some freak ones. I mean, sometimes it's like John Morant, like LeBron taking a charge when John Morant was trying to dunk it on his head. I mean, that was maybe the most unbelievable play of LeBron's night was that play. But it's scary. You see how high these guys are, and the charges taken underneath them. I mean, it's sometimes those injuries just kind of happen. And Anthony Davis, it just seems like every time he lands, he's landing on somebody's ankle or an arm or something, and he's getting injured. But what about the Miami Heat?
I've said that before about Anthony Davis. He seems to be the guy that always, like you said, is landing on someone's foot, catching an elbow when he's going. Like, he just seems to be that guy that is always getting an elbow to the nose, or he's rolling his ankle. It's like always something.
Yeah, we've all played with a guy like that where it's almost like annoying. Like they don't know their body and they can't like avoid. They have no body like awareness where people are at underneath them. Now, I was never a high riser, so I never had to really worry about people getting underneath me and twisting my ankle. But no, I mean, Jimmy Butler. One thing, the injuries. A team that has been injury depleted is the Miami Heat. I mean, Tyler Hero out. Are probably their second or third best player, and I don't know what the hell is going on in that series. I'll be honest.
Hurt now too.
All of a sudden, go ahead one more time.
Oladipo got hurt too.
Oh, right, yeah. Oladipo's out. I don't know. All of a sudden, I look on ESPN, whatever it was, the day after they played Game 4, and I was tuning into that game periodically. Every time I checked, the Miami Heat were down by 10 to 15 points. It's always one of those wild, like Ted. I imagine you on the DVR the next day. Just what in the hell happened in this game where Jimmy Butler comes out, whatever he started, 8 for 8 from the field, and then just in the fourth quarter just absolutely took over. He seems like your kind of guy, Ted. Am I wrong in that? Jimmy Butler,
no, you're
old school.
No, you're exactly right. And it was the Butler show for sure coming down the stretch. And it's funny you bring up the DVR. It was one of the things I was going to talk about. Was the best part of recording these late games obviously it's the chance to watch, right? To watch these late games and soak it all in. And then the other good part about it is when I record it 2 hours extra long, past the date, and being able to watch the TNT post-game show, especially with Ernie, Shaq, Kenny, and Chuck, and having them break it down. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, man.
Sometimes they don't necessarily break it down. They just BS they're basically like us. They're basically up there just having a podcast or whatever. And Ernie has to try and keep them in line, I guess. But no, there's a reason that they win an Emmy every year. That's the best. That's the best studio show out there. I mean, they're great.
They are awesome, man. I'm like dying laughing with them every time. It just happened again where Charles Barkley had another kind of slip up of his words. He had something along the lines of 2 balls bouncing or something like that. And they all just start dying. And he keeps it serious while he gets through his point. I mean, when that happens, it might be the funniest thing on TV, man. So no, it's an all-time show. Everyone's always like, oh, how can we replicate that? How can we replicate that? You can't replicate it. Their chemistry off the charts. You have Charles, they're all Hall of Famers, other than Kenny the Jet. And they're best friends. It seems like, at least. So you can't replicate it. It's awesome.
And Ernie Johnson is like the best in the business too. So he's
right.
I've listened to podcasts with him before, and obviously that always comes up, that show. And he talks about how he doesn't have to they don't prep. I mean, they're almost like us with the podcast. Yeah, we send some texts and stuff like that, but we kind of just let it fly, and they kind of just do that. I mean, you if you watch that show, you can tell there's not really a rundown. It's we're going to talk about Kings Warriors. Let's see where it goes. We're going to talk about Lakers and Grizzlies. Right. So let's see where it goes, So it's the best in the business. And we've talked about it at work. I don't know if we want to move on, if you guys have any other NBA thoughts, but along those same lines, we've talked about how big the NFL draft has become. And obviously that's this week. And just how insane, how we've thought, NFL, I know, Ted, I know baseball is America's pastime. And the MLB, Major League Baseball, is still, near and dear to your heart. But the NFL, to think that the NFL draft gets the coverage and attention, it's not even a game, the draft. And think about even like schedule release shows for the NFL get such big attention. It's amazing. NFL is king in this country. And I don't know about you guys. This is the most hyped I've been for the NFL draft in a while because I feel like the Lions are right there. I honestly think they're a player or two away, especially now that Rodgers is officially out of the division.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Lions are a player or two away from winning the division, going to the playoffs, and maybe finally winning a playoff game for the first time in Jared's lifetime. And the draft is where they can do it. They have 2 first-round picks, and we can all give our thoughts on what we think they should do. I think the Lions should go defense with those first 2 picks. The offensive line is fine. Skill players, I think, are fine. Quarterback, obviously, is fine. Go defense. Add someone next to Hutchinson and make that D-line legit, and then get, I think, a corner or linebacker and really make that defense a strong unit, and you've got yourself a division winner. I don't want to see him draft a quarterback in the first round. I don't want to see him draft a wide receiver in the first round. You don't need to do that. Even with the Jameson Williams BS that went on, you don't need to draft a wide receiver in the first round. Defense in the first round, make that unit strong, address the other positions later on.
See, I'm not so I was actually thinking about this, man. There's really not a position they could draft that I would really hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, quarterback, obviously that's a big risk. That's swinging for the fences, and you just hope you hit a home run. Even that, I'm like kind of like, let's see what happens. I mean, I'm a golf guy, but I wouldn't hate it. Wide receiver, I know obviously the big story has been Williams. I mean, what a puzzling kind of week it's been as a Lions fan. A lot of people are disagreeing with the rules, saying, oh, well, maybe it's not clear that these are the rules. The way I look at it, they are harping these guys on gambling. Yes, it's a little bit hypocritical. Ted, you tweeted out how basically everything is presented by FanDuel or DraftKings on these NFL broadcasts. So it is kind of funny. I don't totally understand the rule placing a bet on another sport in the building, but you just got to be smarter than that. I think they've definitely made that clear. You cannot do that. I'd be surprised if they were not told that. There's no way they were not told that. So I'm not even going to play with that. But the way I look at Jameson Williams and why I wouldn't hate drafting, Smith and Jigba or one of these stud wideouts in one of these first 2 picks, man, is we've seen him make plays when he's on the field. Lions were 5-1 when he was in the lineup, but and we've heard rumors about, his kind of persona around the team and whether he's a diva or that type of thing. We haven't heard anything concrete about it, but why not bolster this offense a little bit more? Let's add a little bit more firepower, especially now that he's suspended for 6 games. I would love to see him draft in Jigba out of Ohio State. I know that doesn't really address our needs. I know we're already kind of loaded at wide receiver, but hey, it's more fun to watch on TV. And as long as we take an edge or some other sort of defensive end or linebacker with one of the 2 picks, I'm fine with it. So I don't hate strengthening your strength.
Yeah, I do lean more to Matt on this one. Strengthen the defense with the first couple picks. But if Holmes already had on the board that he was thinking about a wide receiver with that first pick or second pick, I'm okay with it. I would not be okay with it if it was a reaction to the Williams suspension.
Right.
I mean, people were losing their minds over that. And my initial thought when I saw it come across, I thought, what on earth? I think we all thought that. But then when you look at it, and Matt, I think you tweeted it or texted it, it's 6 games. It could get appealed. Maybe it'll be lesser than that. I mean, 6 games out of 17. Is that really going to kill you? I mean, it's going to keep him healthy for the stretch run. If he changes his attitude, if he indeed does have a bad attitude or, a diva, as Jared would say, that's up to Campbell and his staff to clear that up, or you just get rid of it. I mean, It's that simple.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think they should change their whole draft strategy just because Williams got suspended for 6 games. Now, even though I said defense, I was just, while you guys were talking, the one offensive pick I'd be fine with if Bijan Robinson was there at one of those picks, probably not number 6. That's pretty early for him. But if he was there at that later one, I wouldn't be upset at that because I know they signed David Montgomery, and I know like Swift is still there, but we know he has injury issues. If they could get Bijan Robinson, kind of like what you said, Jared, make a strength even more strong, I'd be fine with taking him. I just think, like I said, I think the offense right now is okay. They brought Marvin Jones back at receiver. Obviously, Monroe St. Brown is turning into a stud. If they can just make the defense, especially now that they traded Okuda away, and we know how good Hutchinson was, shore up that defense a little bit more. And I think we can be right there. But either way, Brad Holmes, it's hard to question the decisions that he makes because he's got a good track record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's pretty much batting 1,000. It's awesome. Where are you guys at on the NFL draft? I know Ted or Matt, you said basically how became such a big event. I'm all for it. I love it. It's honestly probably a top 3 or 4 like sporting event of the year for me. It's a must watch. The drama, you have to watch it live. You can't watch it on DVR, Ted, or you might as well just not even watch it.
Yeah.
The drama, the live, the Laramie Tunsil type situations, the guys falling in the draft, the reaches, the Zach Wilson getting taken second, everything about the draft, I love it. I can't take my eyes off of it. The production is A+. Now that they have these events, now it's not COVID or whatever. Now that they're live on location, the events is awesome itself. I love it. NBA draft, not so much. I'm not as big of a guy about it. I'll still watch. But as for the NFL draft, that first round, I watch every second of it.
Yeah, I'm with you on the first round. I mean, the next couple rounds after that, that run the next couple days, I probably will DVR it. But it's must-see TV. The first round, especially anticipating who the Lions are going to get. I was just having the thought while you were talking that, man, Matt, next year, take a look at your schedule. Get a vacation coming up here for draft day at Ford Field. The 3 of us ought to do a podcast down there. I think it'd be awesome.
It would be fun. That'd be the perfect remote opportunity, especially if we could figure out like one of the bars, one of the watering holes down there. Maybe do something down there. That would be a really cool idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, the draft, it's just wild how whether giving ESPN credit or whatever, has made the NFL draft into must-see TV because, like you said, Jared, something always happens, whether it's trades or whether it's some kid on social media does something stupid. Someone's wife, like Patrick Mahomes' girlfriend at the time, wife, does something crazy. There's always like stories like that happen too. I love it too because like the Lions being right there, but being a big Michigan fan, I like seeing where their players go. I like seeing where Michigan, even other Michigan State or other Big Ten players, seeing where they go. It's just awesome, and it seems like it's something that like everyone it's one of those events. I think, Jared, you've talked about it when we talk about certain sporting events or other things that like at that time when it's happening, everyone is either watching it or they're on Twitter keeping up with it. It's one of those events that when it's happening, that's what everyone is watching. Or, they're on Twitter keeping up with the picks or, whatever it is. Like it's one of those events that at least the first round, like you said, Ted, maybe the later rounds, not so much, but the first round. So Thursday night, if you're not keeping up with the NFL draft, you're like me with Game of Thrones. How I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I was an outsider with that.
Still got to get into it someday, Matt. Great show. Great show.
Never give up on it.
Anything else in NFL football, boys? I did want to bring up the latest thing in college football. I wanted your thoughts on that. The whole take now on keeping the clock running on first downs. When I first, I'll just throw it out first. I thought when I first saw that, I thought, what on earth? But I didn't realize that at the end of the game, I don't know how the rule is written, but is it in the last 2 minutes, last 3 minutes where it will stop? Because that is college football. Late in the game when you're down, man, you're relying on stopping that clock at first down. So thoughts on that?
Kind of a weird, we all agree. I mean, the games are long, especially, there's a difference between like your regular season games and then those college football playoff games, which seem like they take 5 hours. Right. But it's kind of a weird rule. I don't understand why they changed it. I don't really care. I'll watch every single second of a 5-hour game and not complain twice about it. So it's whatever. People who are really freaking out like it's going to make that much of a difference, I don't really understand that point of view. Just kind of a non-story to me. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and for a team like Michigan, that's kind of a run-heavy team. It kind of helps because it keeps the clock moving. So, it could actually benefit Michigan. Yeah, if they didn't do it, because I agree with you, Ted, that is a big part of college football, stopping the clock after a first down. if they didn't put in where the last 2 minutes of the game, I think it's actually both halves. So it's
okay.
at the end of the first half and the end of the second half. Then that would maybe be a little bit like, oh, like you're like changing the game a little bit. But no, Jared, I probably after the first couple weeks, people aren't even going to notice. The clock's going to be running. Maybe like one play here or there. The clock isn't going to stop, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, the clock's still running. Otherwise, no big deal.
You know, it is weird. It's stupid. I won't care. I won't even notice it. It's I've always hated how like the rules change. Whether it's a basketball game, like I feel like the NBA and college basketball, they've all been doing it lately, where the rules are entirely different. In those final 2 minutes. I'm thankful I'm not an NFL coach. We laugh all the time about how, or a college football coach, same way, how like they can't figure out their timeouts. The end of game situations, they always struggle. It's like, I don't blame them, partially because it's like the rules are entirely different. It seems like.
Well, even just rule changes in general. I know the NBA has had the rule with the challenges for a couple of years, but I mean, we just saw Steph Curry called the timeout, and they didn't have a timeout because they challenged a play and lost that timeout. And obviously he knows that rule, but maybe because it's still kind of newer, he wasn't aware that they lost that timeout. So it would be, that's part of your job as a coach, right, to keep up with rule changes and make sure your team is on board with the rule changes. That's your part of your job as a head coach. But I kind of get what you're saying. There would be a little bit of an adjustment period. Like, okay, so wait, if we get a first down, the clock's not going to stop. So we got to think about that, whatever the situation is.
Before we move on to Tedtertainment tonight, I got a couple things in that one. A couple topics. I just wanted your guys' opinions on this that are kind of recent. On Twitter, people are losing their minds over this blue check mark $8 a month thing. Thoughts on that?
My initial thoughts, I actually saw, who was it? It was Dave Portnoy, actually, with Barstool. He made a good point. I don't have any beef with Barstool. Barstool, I feel like, is either like you love or hate them.
Mm-hmm.
I actually feel like I'm a little down the middle. I like their content. I think, what they do, they obviously have a brand. I don't agree with everything they do. But whatever, that's besides the point. But Portnoy, he made a good point. So the blue check mark, it used to be, you were verified. Basically, like if you were famous or if you had enough followers, you got the blue check mark. But then they came out where you could pay for the blue check mark. So then people were like ripping, saying like it's such a status thing. I'm going to pay for my blue check mark to make it look like I'm verified. But what it did, when you paid for it, it actually helped your brand. It made your tweets like go to the top of people's feeds, or like when you reply to a tweet, it would go like to the top of those replies. So like when you would pay, I've actually thought I wanted to float it out to you guys if we should pay with our 3 Point Podcast one, if it would be worth it to pay for it. But paying for the blue check mark actually has like a value to your Twitter account. It helps your engagement. It helps your brand grow. Whereas before, the blue check mark just basically said like you were famous. And Portnoy basically said that people were, like you said, Ted, people were losing their minds over it. Oh, I got the blue check mark. And he said something along the lines of, why would I feel bad about paying for this blue check mark? Because it actually helps my brand. It helps my company. Like the blue check mark now, because he didn't have one before because of all the BS that he had been through, Twitter wouldn't verify him. And he was like, why would I care about the blue check mark before? People know who I am. But now I'm going to pay for the blue check mark because it actually helps my brand. It helps my company. So that I was like, that actually makes sense. Like, who cares about the blue check mark, first of all? But if you're going to pay for it and it helps your following, then it makes sense. What are people mad about?
It makes sense why Twitter did it. I will say, as somebody who's not the most media literate, as we've figured out the last few weeks with April Fool's Day pranks, this made it a lot even more difficult to sift through the BS on Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm still in the adjustment phase where I'll see blue check, immediately kind of think that whatever he says, he's famous or he's verified or whatever, and take what he has to say for granted. Then next thing I know, I click on his profile and he's got 100 followers and whatever follows 7,000. So no, it's a weird adjustment period, but at the end of the day, I understand why Twitter did it. And for this small reason, I'm happy it happened because I remember, when I used to work in news, this guy who I bump shoulders with or whatever from time to time in that field. I remember one time, there after these games, you'd have to get scores from schools, for your late night news broadcast for the sports section or whatever. And this guy said something to me like, yeah, don't people realize I have a blue check mark? Like, why the hell are they not responding to me? I have a blue check, like send in the scores or something like that. And ever since then, that comment has stuck with me as I freaking hate people that are verified. So just that was one small thing. I'm glad that now it's been basically became meaningless, that the people that put so much thought and like they loved it so much that they were verified. I'm happy that they don't have that satisfaction anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know before you weigh into it, I think that's the point that Portnoy was trying to make. Before, honestly, who cares about the blue check mark? Kind of like what you're saying, Jared. Portnoy still had 5 million followers or something stupid like that. He didn't have the blue check mark. Now it actually means something. It actually helps your brand.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in. I hadn't even thought about 3 Point Podcast and going for that. I mean, think about it. It's another feature that we would offer to our partners, and for $100 a year, that's not bad when you think about it. And if it definitely does the rhythms or whatever it's called that would move us up the ladder and get more shares, why not? That's not a bad thought. We'll bring that up at our next board meeting, fellas. Also, before we get to the next segment, I do want to mention this. Jared likes to put me in the greatest generation category, which I'm not. I'm still a little young for that. I'm a baby.
I did not. I do not. The greatest generation was Ted Williams going off to war, coming back, hitting 300 home runs. Well, you are not a part of the greatest generation.
Of course. But we can go back to the tape. You've mentioned it before. That was kind of a joke. But speaking of greatest generation, Pearl Harbor, World War II, I've been watching some different things, and I just noticed that a gentleman, Ken Potts, passed away at 102, leaving one surviving member of the USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor. And I just had to send that shout out, man. Those brave soldiers and sailors. I mean, it's hard to believe, man. One left from the Arizona. And, on my bucket list is a trip to Hawaii, and for sure going to go see the Pearl Harbor Memorial there, man. It gives me chills right now talking about it.
It'd be awesome. I'd love this. That's one thing I would love. I'm not a huge museum guy. I'd love to check that one out. It'd be cool. No, I mean, just you talk about the greatest generation. I'll kind of wrap this real quick. Kind of a fun tie-in. Band of Brothers. As you guys know, you guys kind of tasked me with watching that after I watched the Pacific. And I have my official review. The Pacific is.
You need to save it for entertainment?
Oh, are we? I thought I'll save it. I thought we were all right. I'll save it. That's a little teaser.
Save it. We'll be right back. I'll let you jump in first, Jared. Right after this break, we'll have Entertainment Tonight coming up next.
All right. So as I was saying, Band of Brothers, I gave it a watch. The Pacific, man, it just blows it out of the water. I don't know. I don't know.
You think the Pacific is better than Band of Brothers?
I love the Pacific. I'm a Pacific fanboy. I don't know. They're both great. I'm not saying the Band of Brothers is trash by any means, but I loved that side of the war. I find it more interesting on the U.S. side, at least. That was where we concentrated most of our firepower. Was against Japan and in the Pacific. And I just thought the series, it felt a little bit bigger. Felt like they obviously had a little bit bigger budget at that point because of the success of Band of Brothers. And so the greatest generation, I finally have finished the Band of Brothers. I'm Pacific boy. That's where I lean. I'm a Pacific man.
Now I will say I never actually finished the Pacific, so maybe my review is only half validated, and maybe it's because I watched Band of Brothers first, so that set the bar super high. But I don't know. I need to go back and watch all of the Pacific, because I don't know if I could put it above Band of Brothers. But Saving Private Ryan is one of my favorite movies. I mean, that's just one you could watch anytime. And even though what's going to happen, some of those scenes still just give you the chills, kind of like what you were talking about, Ted. But both of those that movie and then both of those series, just top notch. If you like that genre, not everyone likes war movies. So, if you like that genre, you can't go wrong with either. I know that.
Absolutely. In fact, I've got the urge right now to rewatch both of them. but that's going to take a while. Probably won't be until winter. But
oh wow,
yeah,
you're that backlogged on your shows.
Well, sort of backlogged, but it's time to be outside enjoying the great weather. That's
I was gonna
that's
say
the whole thing.
you got the pontoon out. This isn't the time to start Band of Brothers in the Pacific.
Right. So I'll have limited contributions to Tedtertainment, but I will jump in here real quick and lighten it up just a little bit. Okay. Last podcast, Jared set me on Too Hot to Handle. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Let's just say maybe time has passed me by, but I did watch episode 1, the pilot, and bear with me. I was sitting watching it, clicking on my phone, some quotes, and let me just run down a couple of these. My penis is like an aerosol can. I just walk into a bar and take my shirt off. I have 300,000 followers. I'm a deep thinker. Harry's from Australia, and I have no idea where that is. I would rate myself a 10 out of 10. I'm a professional drinker. I'm Kells. I'm king of the jungle.
Yeah, the show. I mean, I listen. I've only seen the first season, so I'm not gonna act like I'm some fanboy of this show. But I appreciate you for doing your homework. I mean, I understand there's so many quotes.
We
What's
didn't
the
actually
rating?
get his review though.
Yeah, what's the rating?
Yeah, so what was the review? Sorry, Jared, not to cut you off, but
well, if I want to see hot people maybe have sex, I haven't gone to second episode or third episode. What blew my mind a bit was, they got $100,000 first prize to stay away from sexual activity. And I thought, okay, if you have a little sexual activity, you're out. You don't get money. But that's not the case. They deduct a certain amount every time they do this. So they're keeping people enthralled with the show and see what goes on. I will say this. Hey, everybody is just gorgeous. There's no question about that. Yeah. I mean, but if you want to see sex or whatever, go to Pornhub or something, I mean, why go to Netflix? If I was going to rate it, I rate it right with The Bachelor and all these insipid shows. You got to be kidding me. I'm not watching any more episodes of this for sure.
It is. I tell you what, the idea of you what now I got to know more about so was this like a Monday morning with your coffee, like the usual kind of your normal TV watching slot, or when were you watching this show?
Oh yeah, this was in the morning. My normal routine for shows my wife's not interested in, and she certainly would not be interested in this one. She gets up in the morning, takes a bath. I grab my coffee, come downstairs. I popped on Netflix, watched that episode. I have to admit, as I read these quotes, while I'm watching the show, I'm actually laughing out loud a few times. So it has some value for that, I guess. Yeah. and when I see some of these people and how stupid they are, is it all scripted that they do this stuff? It makes you wonder. I know a lot of the show is scripted.
It's like one of those. It's kind of like it's like wrestling, professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's scripted, but wrestling is still real. Those guys are still flying around and throwing each other and doing all that stuff. So yes, it's scripted, but yes, it's still real. So like with these shows, I think obviously, yes, there is a bit of a script, but then it is these people saying all this nonsense or doing whatever the heck they're doing, or trying to act like they're really trying to find true love, or, whatever the heck the story is for that show. That's why I know I talked about Love is Blind, a week or two ago. My wife has gotten, I think she's like, she bit the bait on these shows, because every time I come home, she's like watching some new one. There's like Marriage at First Sight or something, or like one of these ones where they just pick someone and you're supposed to marry them right away. And I'm just like, some of this stuff is just so ridiculous. And it's clear that they obviously do interviews or whatever for people for these shows, because they want to get people who are going to do exactly what you just did, Ted. Say ridiculous. If you're boring or you're not interesting, you're not going to be on these shows.
Yep.
And that one, Jared, you probably definitely know, because you've watched some of these. The one episode or the one season of Love is Blind that I did watch, the first couple episodes, you noticed there was a couple people that, they were showing that were just either like too weird or like very boring. And then the rest of the season, you didn't see them the rest of the season. Yeah. They focus on the few storylines that are really interesting, that grab you.
No, I seriously, I think in the season 1 of Too Hot to Handle that I've seen, I honestly think they like replace a girl because she like wasn't engaging with the girl or something like that. It's kind of messed up. Yeah, I mean, thanks for doing your due diligence on that show. We'll have more missions for you soon. Private
I can't wait.
So.
And it does kind of, there's a little tiny part of me that wouldn't mind getting back into it. You know what I'm saying? Because it does. They know what they're doing. It's a winning formula without a doubt.
That's why I've seen people say like that's why Survivor, The Bachelor, and like some of these other shows, and then now there's the 700 spinoffs. I mean, I remember, Ted, you probably do too, like some of the originals. Real World on MTV and then Road Rules on MTV.
Road Rules.
I mean, these shows, especially as like a teenager, I thought because I wanted that, at that age, I was like, I want to be on these shows. I want to be in Real World or whatever. It's just like you said, these producers, they know what they're doing. They probably see the few people that they're like, we got to get them because they're going to be great. And then they see the few people that, like you said, Jared, after an episode or two, they're like, nope, not going to do it. You're out.
Yeah.
And the way they edit it, man. I mean, it's they know what they're doing with the editing as well. It's a certain type of TV. I don't totally understand. I get why people do it. I mean, Ted, you're talking about this Harry character from season 1. I mean, he's like a full-blown star from that show.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's like blown up since it. Harry Jowsey, I think is his name. So it's you see why these guys do it because it's like, I mean, yeah, you might maybe make an idiot out of yourself once or twice on this show, but your following and your social media influence is going to triple by the time it's over with.
Hey, you can't blame anybody because, like you said, if you do hit it in one of these shows or on social media, you got the so-called influencers. I mean, they're making big coin, and more power to them. It's America for sure.
Yep.
Moving on, I got a couple other quick ones, guys. I've talked about it before on Amazon Prime. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is finishing its last season, season 5. And, this isn't for everybody. I'm not going to give a high recommendation to the younger generation that you're going to love this show. But I think it's very clever. The writing is good, solid acting. The sets are incredible, taking you back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, similar to Mad Men, how they captured that era. And the stars of the show are really good. So on a baby boomer or maybe a little bit younger, I would say definitely watch it if you have Amazon Prime. Very, very good show, I think.
Yep. That's what I've heard.
Yep. And also I have a Tedtertainment Classic Film Pick of the Week. This is a new feature. I've done some homework. I watched some classic movies. Now, Jared, it seems to me like you probably don't appreciate the classics from maybe the 70s and 80s. You might feel it's a bit outdated, but this week's pick of the week, Blazing Saddles. Okay, this was made in 1974. It is maybe one of the most non-PC movies ever made. I mean, you got to see it to believe it. It's a Western made by Mel Brooks, and I just recently watched it on Turner Classic and Neighborhood Cinemas. Our friends at Neighborhood Cinemas, they are bringing it back out on the big screen. I think they got one more showing coming up this week. So if you want to see an old classic movie that is completely not PC, check out Blazing Saddles, and small part by the Detroit Lions. Alex Karras as Mongo is worth the price of admission itself. So a little tip for you, Jared, if you ever want to see a classic, Blazing Saddles.
I've actually seen parts of that movie. I don't remember it. I was honestly, I probably shouldn't have been watching it. Probably like 10 years old or so.
Right.
Watching it. I love that. I love this new wrinkle to the show. I mean, anything you can do to get this segment elongated, you're down for it. So I love it.
I'm looking for a sponsor.
Yeah. Same thing. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but that's all I've ever heard is that it's not PC. There's no way that movie could have been made nowadays.
Right. So well, you know how Quentin Tarantino uses in certain movies the N-word a lot, Yeah. This was before its time. It definitely did that along with other stuff. So you got to be able to have thick skin to watch it. And then I got one final thing, again, from my generation. Saturday nights back in the day, it was Carol Burnett, 10 o'clock, and her comedy cast, Tim Conway, Harvey Korman. She's got a special coming out this week, 90 Years of Laughter and Love. It's on CBS. It actually airs tonight. We're recording Wednesday. So if you get a chance, check out Carol Burnett.
I don't know any of those names that you just threw out there, but I'm sure some of our listeners appreciated that.
Yeah, one of her sidekicks, Harvey Korman, actually is in Blazing Saddles. Big part.
Nice. It's funny. This is maybe a topic for Entertainment Tonight. I've seen Adam Sandler. He seems like he's in the entertainment news all the time.
Right.
I've seen people say that, like, maybe along those lines of Blazing Saddles, a lot of his early movies were not PC, that maybe he should be canceled for some of the jokes that he used to make back in the day. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like with comedy sometimes, obviously some stuff does cross the line for sure. But it's like the people who go to a comedy show and then like get offended and like get up and walk out or whatever. I feel like comedy is one of those things, like you said, Ted, you got to have a little bit of thick skin because comedians are going to push the limits a little bit. Like sometimes things cross the line, but that's part of comedy. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah. You hate to see having reins on comedians, I mean, do their thing and just deal with it.
Yeah.
Cancel culture, man. I could go on for 400 hours about it. So I'll save it for another pod.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, I think we made it through another podcast, boys. What do you think?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we've been brought to you by the great folks at Memorial Healthcare's Now Community Wellness Center and Skymint Cannabis. Skymint Cannabis, farm to stash, grown right here in the Great Lakes State. Over 20 locations and counting. Check out the Skymint Reserve. Also, check out Michigan's best bundles for deals on flower, vapes, pre-rolls, edibles, and extracts. And like I mentioned in the open, ounces as low as $49. More details, and if you're over 21, go online at skymint.com, sign up for the rewards program. It's that time of year, so stock on up. Also, Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center, a lot going on. Children's swimming lessons underway, flexibility training. The Wellness Center has an open house, spring open house coming up Saturday, April 29th, 10 to 1, free admission, over 20 health and wellness vendors. For more details, follow and like them on Facebook at Memorial Wellness Center, or go online, find out more deets at memorialhealthcare.org. Also want to thank our local friends, AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, CR Auctions, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Fellas, final thoughts, NFL draft, what's on the agenda of the next week?
NFL draft, NFL playoffs. That's kind of where we're at, right?
Hey, amen.
Is there any way the Lions take a quarterback in your guys' opinion tomorrow? Or where are you at? Like, if you're 0 to 100, where is the percentage?
I think like low, I would say like 10-20%, something like that. I don't think it's out of the picture. I feel like Brad Holmes is maybe one of those, like, they always say with the NFL draft, take the best player available, and say CJ Stroud is there at 6 and they think CJ Stroud is going to be the next great QB. I wouldn't be shocked. I just personally don't think they should.
Sorry, Ted, you can go ahead. But if Richardson is there at 18, I'm all about it.
Stay tuned. But I wouldn't be against it necessarily, but I'd be more on the percentage of Matt. Personally, and I don't know what you guys think, Stroud has all the physical ability, but I'm a little concerned. Maybe it's just smoke, that people are saying he's not passing the test, not as able to read. I mean, if the Alabama quarterback for some reason was available at 6, would you pull the trigger? No.
Yeah. If Bryce Young was there at 6, I would say the minute Goodell gives in number 5, give number 6. Bryce
I'm right with you. Franchise quarterback.
Yeah, if he somehow, from what I'm hearing, he's basically going to be 1. But who knows? You never know with draft night. So yeah, if he somehow is there, I'd take him. I trust Brad Holmes, is what I'm going to say. If whoever he takes, wherever, until he proves us wrong, I'll trust it.
I agree with you there. And we're all in agreement on that one. Hey, don't forget also follow us on the socials at 3 Point Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as we threw out last week, we'll keep throwing it out there. If you have any comments, any rebuttals to anything we say, anything you want to add, maybe you're too hot to handle fan and want to take offense with what I said, definitely send us or record something on your phone and email us at 3pointpod@gmail.com, and we'll get you on one of our upcoming podcasts. That's going to do it. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening.